Okay, so the Browns have activated Deshaun Watson's practice window, and everybody reacting to the news has had a interesting reaction to this. Now, what is interesting about this is that they are doing it this late in the season, right? This is something I thought they were going to do coming out the bye week, where they would activate Deshaun's practice window after the bye week and then give him 21 days to come back. But that ended up not being the case for them, right? Like it seemed to take a longer than what even they anticipated. I remember Kevin saying, I think after the Vikings game, that he felt like Deshaun was about a month away from practicing. So if you take that, right, the Vikings game was October 5th. And we're all the way at December 3rd, 2 months later, not 1 month later. And now Deshaun Watson is practicing. So it's interesting that it's happening now because, like, once it didn't happen November 9th, I was thinking to myself, like, oh, well, maybe they just won't activate him all year if they haven't done it by then. Now they're doing it. So just to keep in mind, right, the 21-day window starts today for Deshaun Watson. If I could pop open a calendar real quick, we can count the days to figure out when his window officially closes up. Now, I don't think it's common that somebody gets their practice window opened and then doesn't return to the active roster on some level. Will he be on the game day 48? That's a whole nother question. I highly doubt it. But will he be put back on PUP? It's usually not the case, right? So they're opening up his 21-day window today, which means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So December 23rd, right around Christmas, that's just wonderful timing, is when the Browns will have to make a final decision. So they can theoretically string this thing out after the Buffalo game until right before the Pittsburgh game, where there's 2 games left in the season. Look, the nature of this being about Deshaun Watson means that there's going to be a lot of noise about this. Is the reality of this going to follow up with a same amount of noise on the football field for Deshaun? I don't think that's the case. Why do I think that's the case? I'll tell you in just a second, but I got to thank my sponsor, Sleep. Real quick, just want to let you guys know Sleeper has a new offer here. They're offering a free $20 entry, no deposit required. And also, if you're a first-time user, you also will receive a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code WORSTTAKE. Again, $20 free, no deposit required. Plus, first-time users also receive 100% deposit match up to $100. Join Sleeper. So, yeah, I get it. It's Deshaun Watson. This fan base has been having quarterback conversations that they'd rather not be having for like the last 7 years. It has not been fun to talk about the quarterback position in Cleveland. Even when Baker was here, it was full of arguments and discourse because Baker wasn't playing particularly well his last few years in Cleveland, or at least his last year in Cleveland. So it's been an exhausting, long, windy road for Browns fans. And you hear that Deshaun Watson get his practice window open, and you're thinking to yourself automatically, let's go to the worst case scenario. Deshaun Watson's going to start. Do I think that's going to happen? Highly doubt it. Unless there's like an emergency situation where the Browns lose both Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders in the same game or in the same practice week, and Bailey Zapp's only quarterback left, and they have like a day or two before they have to go to a game, then I think that maybe Deshaun might be active for a game in that scenario. But more than likely, we're talking about somebody who at best might be emergency quarterback, but even then, they still got Bailey Zapp on the roster, and they haven't made any. Like, we'll see what happens with Bailey Zapp, right? I think that's going to be the litmus test for this all. But I really don't see a reason for the Browns to want to rush to see Deshaun Watson on the field, right? I think that's what a lot of people are jumping to. I've even heard some people go as far as to say they think Deshaun Watson going to be the 2026 starter. I'd be shocked if that's the case, if they really want to get a look at him as a starter. It seems like organizationally from the top down, they've made their mind up about him. And most importantly, it's not just coming from people who can get fired. It's coming from the people who cannot get fired, like Jimmy Haslam. So it's not stuff that's going away if you change a coach or if you change a GM or something like that, and they're going to have a new perspective. And also the idea that the Browns are going to hire a new coach and that coach is going to be like, you know what I want? I want more Deshaun Watson is kind of insane, right? So highly doubt that that's going to be the case for the Cleveland Browns. What I think this is what it is at face value, right? The Browns are just electing to go through this process with Deshaun Watson as normal as possible because it benefits them to go through the process as normal as possible. I know there's been this expectation that the Browns will just hold back a healthy Deshaun Watson from being able to practice all year in order to collect a bigger insurance payout, because that's a whole other element of that I got to explain. But understand that idea is insurance fraud, right? Like if you lie to get a bigger insurance payout, I don't think I need to know the specifics of your insurance deal to know that that's probably insurance fraud, because that's what insurance fraud is. So you can't just lie, say he's not healthy. You got to go through the process and listen to your medical people and, do this thing in good faith in order to avoid this thing from getting complicated. Now, some of you are hearing insurance and wondering, what do I mean by insurance? How does the team have insurance on the player? So the Browns have, I don't know what kind of specific insurance it's called, but it's like salary cap insurance is the way it works, which means if a player that they put a lot of money into in the cap does not play for them for a period of time that they have insured, the Browns could get some salary cap relief for that player. So with Deshaun Watson, they have insurance on his contract. If he misses the entire season, I think it's like $44.6 million that they get in insurance relief, potentially, but it's prorated per game. So it's not something that's going to not happen if Deshaun plays a single game this year, right? I know that's how some people have framed the conversation around the insurance for his contract. It's just going to be based on how many games he misses. So let's say he doesn't become active until week 17, and then he finally hits the 53-man roster where the Browns voluntarily don't dress him, right? They just say, hey, look, he's going to be emergency quarterback or not available this week. So you get to week 17. You still get the insurance payout for him missing all of last season. Well, not all of last season, but you still get the insurance payout for 2026 for him missing the 16 games in 2025. And if he misses 17 games, it's 17. If he misses the whole season, the whole season. It's prorated. So the idea that I saw some people panicking about that part of it, right? Because some people are like, oh, we got this insurance for Deshaun, and if Deshaun plays, then that ruins the insurance, and that's just not the case. From everything that I can tell from everybody I've talked to, it is prorated, which means it's based on the number of games Deshaun Watson misses during the season versus the number of games, versus if Deshaun Watson plays at all. So you're still going to get a pretty healthy insurance payout, right? Like if we just do the math on this and he's active for the last 2 games of the season, right? Let's just do some quick math here. So 2 games out of 17, that is 11% of the season. So we're still talking about of that 44.6 million, you're going to get 89% of that, right? So still a lot of that, right? We're talking about $39.6 million in insurance relief, if that's exactly how it works. There's probably different kickers in there. You probably get relief based on game checks and guaranteed money and all this stuff. So who knows what the actual number is going to be? I'm not doing complicated enough math to be able to reasonably predict that. But if you're worried about the insurance stuff with Deshaun, there's really nothing to be worried about. If he plays 2 games, it's not really going to wipe out the whole insurance agreement. The insurance agreement is just, it covers the games that he misses throughout the year, and it's prorated throughout the season. So him playing like the last 3 games of the season, it would not affect things. Now, that's another part of this. Will Deshaun Watson play? I don't see how that happens unless it's an emergency, like I said earlier. Right now, the Browns are playing Shedeur Sanders, right? And they are in, I think unashamedly so, they are in full talent evaluation mode, right? That's why Shedeur is out there. That's why they're giving like Tevin Jenkins reps at right guard. That's why they're giving Harold Fainin all the targets, and they're acting like David Njoku doesn't exist anymore, right? They are in full talent evaluation mode, which means would they like to win a game here or there? Sure. But right now, their priority is figuring out just exactly how much they have in some of these young guys to figure out what they're going to do in the future, right? The reason that they're giving Harold Fainin a ton of targets right now is to see, okay, how expendable is David Njoku? That's what they want to figure out. So they're going to spend the next month doing stuff with Harold Fainin that might not make the most sense in the world from a game plan perspective, but makes sense from an evaluator perspective, right? Because they're going to be like, okay, well, let's see if Harold Fainin can do this and that. You know, David can probably do it better, but you just want to see where Harold Fainin is on stuff like that. And you're going to see more stuff popping up like that as the season goes on. The Browns don't really stand much to benefit from winning right now. They only really benefit from losing. So unfortunately for this team, that's the place that they're in, and that's what they're going to have to do and manage throughout this month of December. So the idea of putting Deshaun out there, right, it feels counterproductive to what they're trying to do. If they're looking at young guys and saying, hey, we need to get these young guys out here, we need to get these young guys reps, we need to get Shedeur Sanders reps, right? It makes no sense to go back to Deshaun Watson for any reason. Even if Shedeur Sanders completely plays terrible over the next 2 weeks or something like that, and you have to pull him off the field, then you just go back to Dillon Gabriel because he's the other rookie that you could evaluate, right? Like, I don't think that this is going to get to a point where it ever really makes sense to play Deshaun Watson. Now, to be fair to some of the more skeptical people out here, this has been a crazy enough season where anything can happen, right? It doesn't make sense to play Deshaun Watson. No, it does not make sense to play Deshaun Watson. But there have been some things that don't make sense that's happened this year. So I can't say for sure just because something does not make sense that they won't do it. But I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think this is along the lines of somewhere that they're going to surprise me. So all in all, yes, Deshaun Watson activated for his 21-day window, but we got to consider a few things before we freak out with our reaction. One, if you listen to the timeline that Kevin Stefanski's been putting out, he's actually a month late to this point, right? They thought he'd get here in November. It's December. So this window is opening up really late, almost suspiciously late. Another thing to consider with this whole point is the Browns were never going to just commit straight up insurance fraud to get the bigger payout, right? They were always going to just go about this process and have the appearance, at the very least, that they are operating in good faith and that they're operating under medical guidance, not a financially motivated move, but medical guidance, right? So they're going to listen to their team doctors and what they say Deshaun should be doing, should not be doing. So they weren't never going to commit insurance fraud. I know there's some expectations the Browns would say to Deshaun, screw you, you're not healthy, and then just like try to collect the money. But I promise you, whoever's shelling out $44 million of cap insurance certainly is aware that teams could try to pull that off and have mechanisms in place to avoid that. So insurance being involved here, that means the Browns have to kind of play this one straight. And I think that's why his 21-day window is being opened up. As far as him clearing his 21-day window, he probably will. I'm not going to be surprised if he gets cleared from his 21-day window. Usually when you open this, you know that somebody can come back. The question is, will he be on the game day 48? He will be at some point this year on the 53-man roster. Will he be active on game days? That's a different question. I don't think he will be active on game days unless there's some kind of injury or emergency that necessitates him being active on game days. On top of everything that's happened with Deshaun Watson, right, on and off the field over the last few years, I think people need to remember this is a guy who had a throwing shoulder season-ending injury in 2023 that he never really fully came back from, because in 2024 his arm strength just looked weak, and then he's had 2 Achilles tears, which greatly reduces the amount of explosion you're able to create in your body when you're trying to throw a football. So the idea that like, hey, this is like, I'm not sure if Deshaun Watson's going to really offer a compelling enough football product to be even considered to play football this year or for anybody else. I think that's a real question of if he can even do that. But also, I think more than likely we're having this conversation about somebody who's going to spend the rest of the year probably helping out the scout team, more than likely. And what they're going to do with him next year, it's going to be interesting, right? It could be a preview of what they're going to do with him next year, because he's going to be carried on the active roster more than likely next year. But the question is, again, like, is he going to be on the game day 48? How do the Browns hide him? Do they just make him a backup? What do they do with Deshaun Watson and this quarterback room that, feels like a bit of a mess here right now, right? Deshaun Watson, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders. There's a lot of conversation between those two, right? Already, and then let's be real here, the Browns could very easily be in a place to where they draft the quarterback. And I think when your quarterback room is Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, no offense to anybody in there, maybe a little offense to Deshaun Watson, but then you're gonna probably want to draft the quarterback, because that ain't it. That's not the quarterback room you want. This gonna be interesting to see what happens here. But that's my thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.